I have a confession to make. I'm an addict. Every time I go on the toilet and I take a little poopsie, I am completely addicted to social media. But I come from a long line of addicts themselves. My grandparents had a custom built slot next to their toilet paper roll specifically designed to hold the TV guide. My parents, they had a little bin that had an arrangement of the sports section of the local newspaper and National Geographic. So I come from a long line of addicts, and I continue the tradition to this day. Now, while scrolling through social media, I found a post that I found completely disturbing, disgusting, and I felt I needed to talk about it. Now, shout outs to my friend Jennifer for posting this letter. I was completely shocked, blown away. It was like how bad season 7 and 8 of Game of Thrones was, or how bad the ending of Lost was. That was a similar reaction times 10 when I saw this post. Now, for a quick disclaimer, I just wanted to let everyone know that I am going to be talking about one of the recent school shootings, and it could be disturbing for some people. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. So I'm just going to read you what this letter says straight away and show it here on screen. It comes from a Reddit thread on the ex-Mormon community. Go check them out. They have a lot of cool and interesting stuff, especially if you are someone that's coming or leaving a cult. But I'm just going to read this straight away, and then I'll give you some of my thoughts on it, because I think that the problem and the issue surrounding this letter is way deeper than just, an individual sending a random letter. So let's read it, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty here. It says, "Dear neighbor, we all have to be in total disbelief about the tragedy that happened in the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, where 19 children died. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families who have suffered such a tremendous loss. I read an article on a free website that focused on the surviving children of this tragedy. The article also awakens us to think about what children are exposed to when we watch the news describe in vivid detail the horrible events that took place. How are children affected by the news? Children may interpret what they see on the news, or they may have trouble putting the news in perspective," the article says. It also gives suggestions on how to help children cope. I sincerely recommend checking out this website, www.jw.org. The website requires no personal information, no request for donations, nothing to join, and is published in over 1,000 different languages. I hope you will check out the website and look for the article, Help Your Children Deal with Disturbing News Reports. Sincerely," and then they blocked out the name. Wow. Just wow. The idea that someone is going to use a tragedy, a horrible event, such as a deranged person going into an elementary school with an automatic weapon and killing people, killing children, killing teachers. Someone's going to use that as a way to try and get them in a vulnerable state, in a mindset where they are more susceptible to being indoctrinated with ridiculous beliefs coming from JW.org, the very website they mention. I find this to be completely disgusting. And my initial thought was, I bet a lot of people will see this and think, well, this is an individual. This is an individual of their own volition that is sending these letters out because they think it's something that's positive. They see this article on jw.org. We'll get into that later. But they see this article and they're like, you know what? Maybe someone would benefit from that. But I think the problem is much deeper. than just an individual sending letters of this nature out. Because you might think to yourself, well, surely an international organization would never be so yucky, so cringy, so gross to capitalize on the death, the tragedy that people are feeling, the hurt, the scare that they're feeling. People with children are no doubt drop their kids off at school, and it enters your mind. Trust me, it enters your mind. When you drop your children off at school, you think about this. And the fact that they're trying to capitalize on this to promote a cult, to promote their religion. We can take the word cult out of it if it makes some people uncomfortable, but they're trying to use this to promote their religion. And the thing is, the organization that they're promoting has done the exact same thing. I've made videos about this subject in the past about how when there's a mass shooting or something like that, I think I even titled it, Watchtower Loves Mass Shootings, they absolutely capitalize or try and capitalize on this and say, oh, look, there is this tragedy. There is this horrific event that took place. Let's try and use people's vulnerable state to get them to join our religion. And I find this to be completely disgusting, especially because it's wrapped around this concept of, well, we're just trying to offer practical help. It's free of charge, no donations, easy peasy lemon squeezy, not a big deal. But the problem here lies with the Watchtower organization. The Watchtower organization needs tragedy. They need things to be horrible in order for their beliefs to be true. Because they have this concept that the world is continuing to get worse and worse and worse. And in order to feed that narrative, whenever there is an earthquake, they're running down the halls, giving each other high fives. If there's an outbreak of some disease, they're hugging each other and slapping each other on the ass. And whenever there's something is terrible and almost unimaginable as someone going into an elementary school and killing children, they are literally getting fucking boners from this because it feeds their narrative. And it's disgusting. It's disturbing. And the fact that they can produce material like this and the fact that their members can perpetuate this behavior is truly disgusting. As a society, we need to be better, and we need to say, no, I'm going to call this out. And that's why I wanted to make this video. We need to call people out that are trying to capitalize on something like this. And what's actually said here, that happened. I mean, bad grammar, bad spacing on the letters. I have bad grammar, so I guess I can't poke too much fun at that or anything. But it's a classic Watchtower talk. Hey, all of these bad things happened in this place. Our thoughts and prayers go out to you. Thanks, thoughts and prayers. I mean, I know it's hard whenever there's like a big tragedy. Sometimes I often find myself, at a loss for words and how to actually comfort someone. But I understand, like, you're trying to say something. But when you immediately go into the real message, I read an article on this free website. There is an agenda here. It's not just saying, hey, we're thinking about you. I know this, is a horrible accident, and I don't think this was sent to one of the victims of this crime, or it's so horrible. But the worst is yet to come, people, because I went and okay, well, what does this article actually say? Help your children deal with disturbing news reports. And I was already appalled and disgusted that, someone could send this letter. But I clicked on this article, and the Watchtower organization, JW.org, does the same thing. They are talking about someone that had their child that was in school when there was a shooting at their elementary school. And they're using that for their propaganda. So I'll do just a quick speed run of this article. It starts off by, saying that there's nerve-wracking news, and then it gets into their bullet points on how children are affected by the news. It says many children are upset by tragedies they see on the news. Obviously, it can be quite terrifying for someone that has less experience in the world and doesn't know how to actually deal with loss, tragedy, fear, all of those things. It can be very difficult for a child. And then it goes and talks about children may misinterpret what they see on the news. For example, some conclude that what they see will happen to their family. And again, that's a very normal thing. You hear of a story, and sometimes it becomes immediately scary for them. Like, well, that could happen to me. And again, yeah, that's just a real thing that happens. So what are the Watchtower's suggestions here? First off, it says limit their exposure to tragic news. This does not mean that your child should be oblivious to what is happening in the world, but little good is accomplished when they watch or hear a disturbing news story related over and over. I have to honestly say, that's probably some decent advice, and, going over it over and over and over again, no doubt is going to continue to make your child uncomfortable at the very least, or fearful at the worst. And that probably isn't a good idea. And I don't imagine in my head that too many parents are out there like, no, come on, Timmy, we got to watch the news. Let's keep recounting this story over and over and over again. It seems fairly obvious. I don't know how many parents out there. I imagine when Timmy comes down the stairs from his room, they might switch off the TV because they recognize that it could be pretty scary for him. So I don't really know why. I mean, that seems like advice that doesn't really need to be said, because I feel like most people understand that. But it is good advice nonetheless. Next up, it says, listen patiently and respond empathetically. Absolutely, of course. Help your child put news in perspective. For example, a report of an abduction may make a crime like that seem much more likely to occur than it really is. Explain to your children what measures you have taken to keep them safe. Also keep in mind that a tragedy is usually considered newsworthy because it is rare, not because it is common. This is what really ticks me off. This is what gets me so fucking mad at whoever's writing this article. Because if you are the person that's writing this article, you are a higher up within the Jehovah's Witness organization. And if you are a higher up within the Jehovah's organization, you know full well that the Watchtower organization, the Jehovah's Witnesses, are not doing everything they can to protect children. So when they say, explain to your children what measures you have taken to keep them safe, I call foul on you, Watchtower. What measures are you taking to keep children safe? For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about child safeguarding. There is a rampant problem within the organization about letting abusive individuals run around without reporting anything to the police. And their major excuse is this 2-witness rule that comes from Matthew, where you can't charge your brother unless 2 witnesses were involved. But when we're talking about a abuse of a child, there's not often, 99% of the time, there's not someone else to witness that event. And they take that as, well, we can't do anything about that. And even in states and countries where there are mandatory reporting laws, the Watchtower refuses to follow those, and they try and fall back on this weird, lawyer-client, doctor-client privilege thing where it's like, well, we don't have to say anything because we are priests. which falls flat on its face because what Watchtower does is they investigate it and they talk about it with multiple people. So it's not like a confession of something that's happening between one person and another. It's something that gets investigated by a group of elders. And there's been multiple cases where Watchtower has failed to safeguard children. So the fact that they're trying to write this article, and the person that's writing this article knows all of these cases that are happening around the world, and there are dozens of them. They know all of these cases around the world, and yet they're saying, oh, you should just tell your child all the measures that they're taking to keep them safe. What are you doing, Watchtower, to keep children safe? Answer me that question. Oh, well, we keep an eye on people that are reported. It's disgusting, it's disturbing, and if it doesn't make you mad, then I don't know what's wrong with you. This should make you very upset, the fact that they're doing this. And it actually has like a tangible effect in the real world, because witnesses are charged with this preaching campaign, and part of their preaching since the pandemic has been to write letters. And what are they doing? They are capitalizing on human suffering, on a tragic event, to try and indoctrinate people to become members of their organization. And the individual members only do this because the organization as a whole does the exact same thing. And if we scroll down, what do we get? We get an example here. What if your child has witnessed a tragic event? On May 7th, 2019, 2 youths opened fire at a school in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, USA, killing 1 student and injuring 8. Jack 9 was a student at that school, and he was present on the day of the shooting. His parents, Ben and Casey, discussed their efforts to help Jack deal with the aftermath. So again, they are talking about how their belief system, their trust and faith in the Watchtower organization is able to help them deal with these horrible situations. And they're not giving any advice that's that revolutionary or anything, and not that it's necessarily their job to, but it's just very yucky to me that they are using these examples. And like I said before, they did that in one of their videos. I made a whole video on it, and it's like a whole long spiel about a mass shooting and using that as propaganda to further indoctrinate their members, and using it as an opportunity to indoctrinate new members. And I find this whole thing absolutely disgusting. So anyway, that's about all I have to say. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.